Welcome to Madison City Channel's Know Your Candidates interviews, co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Dane County. I'm your interviewer, Maria Spinozzi, and I would like to introduce Erica Janisch, running for Alder from District 20. As we begin, please tell our viewers a bit about how your educational, vocational, and civic experience has prepared you for the position and why you decided to run for Alder.
Yeah, I would first like to thank you and the League of Women Voters for hosting this. As you mentioned, my name is Erica. I grew up in a really small town in the Northwoods. After graduating, I attended the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay, where I received my bachelor's in history. After college, I did 2 terms as an AmeriCorps Vista, first in Milwaukee and then in Green Bay. And I worked primarily with low-income minority students, getting them prepared for college. My father is actually a combat vet who was injured in Afghanistan, and because of that and my connection with veterans, I decided to move to Madison and work for the Department of Veteran Affairs. When working there, I was able to see the issues that veterans were dealing with, and unfortunately, homelessness was one of those. For the last 6 years, I've been a stay-at-home mom, where I have spent hundreds of hours volunteering in the classroom. I also am the vice president of the Falk PTO, and I sit on the committee, the Parent Advisory Committee for the school district. I'm running for Alder because as a mother, I want our community to be safe and family-friendly, and I hope that the voters also share that idea.
Madison's efforts to address chronic homelessness have appeared to fall short, especially with regard to providing sufficient support systems for a housing-first approach. What ideas do you have that might create greater success for projects such as the one on Tree Lane?
So, what I feel is the issue surrounding homelessness and affordable housing is we build structures that have really pretty names, such as affordable housing, but really they're known as ghettos and slums because this is not a new idea. And some of the issues surrounding them is they're not by public transportation areas, they're not by childcare areas, there's no support, there's no parking. So I think first we need to address where we're putting the affordable housing. I think, as I mentioned before, I've worked with veterans and a lot of them are disabled. So the apartments and places we are building really need to be handicap accessible and have access to social services to help those with mental needs. But really, I honestly feel instead of all these apartments, we need to be putting people into homes. It's an investment for them and it's something they're proud of.
The Madison Police Department has been faulted for not having appropriate policies and training around de-escalation and use of force, especially with regard to people of color. What is your perspective on whether any changes are needed in ways Madison Police operate in our community?
So changes are always necessary for any person, any organization. I know that no department is perfect, so there clearly are issues. However, our police are trained to serve and protect our communities, and I feel that putting all this extra pressure on them to be social workers in a sense and mental health workers, it's hard. So I feel we need to provide additional funding to the Madison Police Department so we can bring in people who specialize in de-escalation and mental health needs. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be training our current officers, but really we need to bring people who are focused specifically in those areas.
There is a perception that Madison's story is a tale of 2 cities, one in which people of color are less likely to experience success. What can be done to ensure that Madison is a community in which all people can thrive?
So in my district, there actually is, I feel, a physical divide. On Raymond Road, Whitney Way is our physical divide. One part is middle class, primarily white people. The other half is low income and people of color. I feel that what we need to do is first acknowledge that there's an issue. We can't solve an issue. People don't want to admit that there's an issue. The white community needs to acknowledge that maybe there's some implicit bias and that they need to come to the table and speak about that. And people of color also need to acknowledge that they need help and that they are also part of the problem. So really acknowledging that first is what we need to do before we move forward.
What issue have you identified as being of primary concern to the residents of your district, and how would you approach tackling it?
So the issue in my district is public safety, primarily crime committed by juveniles, unfortunately. I think we have a lot of social programs in our community that aren't being utilized. And I would first want to meet with those organizations and community leaders to see where the disconnect is before providing funding. But I also don't want to reinvent the wheel. So we need to find out where that disconnect is, find social programs that work for the people committing crimes, and I feel offer them training for jobs. We all can agree that children who are busy don't get in as much trouble.
The relationship between the council and the mayor appear at times contentious. Is this a problem, and if so, how would you improve the relationship?
I feel that it is a problem. I actually don't really meet a lot of people who are running right now who are really comfortable with the mayor. Not saying at all that he's a bad person, but I feel, my opinion is that maybe he should no longer be in office. My concern was when he decided not to run and then changed his mind, is he has a personal vendetta, kind of, that there is something that he wants done and he won't work with other people because he wants stuff done for himself. So I really feel that there is an issue, and maybe it's time that we have a new mayor.
What changes, if any, should be made in how the city approaches major projects, such as Judge Doyle Square and the public market?
So what changes? Again, like I said, there should always be changes. It's not going to hurt anybody. I think primarily it's a funding issue. However, we also need to take into account public opinion. I feel we really listen to people who are in leadership roles, but maybe they're not taking into account what the public and the people who elected them need. So funding, of course, but really listening to the public to understand the needs surrounding these areas.
What council committees do you want to serve on, and why?
So the first council committee that I thought about sitting on was, of course, the educational committee. I've got 4 children who are in school, so education and holding people to a high standard is really important to me. Another committee that I really want to sit on is the ethics committee. We seem to be having some ethics, issues in our area. So sitting on that community and really holding people responsible for their actions is what I would like to do.
What would you like to say to the viewing audience as we complete this interview?
So first, a lot of the issues that we have spoke about revolve around low-income people of color. However, they are the people who don't generally vote. So I really want them to get out and vote. The issues, like I said, directly impact them, and they need to research the people who are going to work for them. Another thing I would like to say is women need to stop putting other women down. We need to lift each other up. Most of the people who have said negative things to me and who are not supportive of me are other women. So women need to stop putting down other women.
I want to thank Erica Janisch for speaking with us and the viewing audience for taking the time to know your candidates. Please vote in this and every election. On behalf of Madison City Channel and the League of Women Voters of Dane County, I thank you for joining us.